From the Grayman Briefing, this is a summary of recent developments regarding the Second Amendment, cybersecurity, protests, supply chain disruptions, national security, law and order, free speech, censorship, government oversight, and more. For your situational awareness, Super Essie will be reading out the latest update. Get briefs sent in real time at graymanbriefing.com. That's Gray with an A. Let's get started.
Let's begin with the Second Amendment. The month of June is packed with legal updates regarding firearm rights. First up, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the federal ban on bump stocks, ruling that a semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock is not a machine gun as defined by law. The SCOTUS decision found that the ATF, this is a quote, the ATF therefore exceeded its statutory authority by issuing a rule that classifies bump stocks as machine guns, end quote. In SCOTUS's June 14th decision, they clarified that a, quote, semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock does not fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. With or without a bump stock, a shooter must release and reset the trigger between every shot, and any subsequent shot fired after the trigger has been released and reset is the result of a separate and distinct function of the trigger. All that a bump stock does is accelerate the rate of fire by causing these, end quote. It appears that the issue at hand was focused on the introduction of the attempted ban as an ATF rule. It was suggested that if the ban was issued as a law approved by Congress, it would pass and be enforceable. A Texas U.S. District Court issued a preliminary injunction against the ATF also, blocking enforcement of a rule under the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, or the BSCA, that broadened the requirements for federal firearms licenses, FFLs. The rule aimed to close alleged gun show loopholes, but was found to likely have violated federal law. The federal court on June 11th found that the ATF rule violated federal law by, quote, requiring that firearms owners prove innocence rather than the government prove guilt, end quote, which could, quote, trigger civil and criminal penalties for conduct deemed lawful just yesterday, end quote. The injunction provides temporary relief to the plaintiffs while legal challenges continue in the courts. Also, a Texas U.S. District Court vacated the ATF's rule on stabilizing braces, which made possession of unregistered pistols with attached braces illegal. The court found that the rule was vague and a violation of the Administrative Procedure Act, the APA, by circumventing congressional approval. The federal court, in the Mock v. Garland case on June 13th, said the rule did not follow, quote, procedural requirements because it was arbitrary and capricious and was not a logical outgrowth of the proposed rule, end quote. The rule was vacated and motions for summary judgment were denied. Okay, let's look now at the government oversight and commercial oversight briefings. The U.S. House voted on June 12th to refer Attorney General Merrick Garland to the DOJ for contempt of Congress. This stems from Garland's refusal to comply with a subpoena requesting audio recordings from special counsel's Robert Hur's investigation into Biden's handling of classified documents. The tapes are deemed necessary to assess Biden's mental fitness and potential grounds for his impeachment. The DOJ responded to the criminal referral a few days later, stating that his failure to comply with the subpoenas does not constitute a crime. Therefore, the DOJ will not bring the congressional contempt citation before a grand jury or take any action to prosecute the Attorney General, who heads up the DOJ. Republican lawmakers could continue to seek charges through the court system. Complaints to the DOJ Inspector General revealed that the FBI Security Division used biased lines of questioning during security clearance reviews, targeting applicants' political views and stances. This is on those reviews for top secret security clearances. Questions included whether applicants vocalized support for Trump, objected to vaccines and masks, or attended the January 6th riot. Notes added to the applicants indicated political bias, leading to calls for an investigation into the FBI's conduct. So on these applications, the FBI's Security Division left notes such as the following, and these are quotes: deaf Trump supporter, strong Republican views, very against masks and vaccines, not vaccinated, had right-wing views, nothing extreme. So in response to this, The complaint issued said, quote, "Instead of limiting its investigation to legitimate issues, the SecD, or Security Division, acted as if support for President Trump objecting to COVID-19 vaccines or lawfully attending a protest was the equivalent of being a member of Al-Qaeda or the Chinese Communist Party." Moving on, in Spokane, Washington, city leaders have called on law enforcement to crack down on individuals driving scooters over a public road painted with a pride flag, and they've been leaving tire marks. One adult and 2 minors were arrested for first-degree malicious mischief after driving on the city-sanctioned rainbow-colored street, which you can drive on, but they've apparently been leaving tire marks. If convicted, they face up to 10 years in prison. Lime, the scooter sharing service, took immediate action against these suspects, creating a geolocation no-ride zone around the mural to disable scooters in the area. The incident highlights unequal enforcement of laws, as arrests for pro-Palestinian extremists vandalizing city streets are low compared to those defacing pride flag roads. Washington's governor recently signed legislation redefining the state's hate crime to include property defacement, making such crimes felonies, and that just went into effect this month. Finally, in government oversight, the Pentagon conducted a clandestine anti-vaccination campaign during the COVID-19 pandemic to undermine Chinese vaccines. The operation involved creating social media accounts, fake ones, to spread fear about Chinese vaccines and masks, aiming to counter China's narrative and increase support for U.S.-made vaccines. The campaigns face criticism for risking public health to achieve geopolitical goals. And in a legal update related to government oversight along with health and safety, the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit ruled against a Los Angeles school district's mandatory COVID-19 vaccination requirement for its staff. The court found that the mandate interfered with the fundamental right to refuse medical treatment, as the vaccine, according to the court, does not prevent the spread, but only mitigates symptoms for the recipient. Real quick, let's look at the civil unrest update for the week. On June 27th, pro-Palestinian, Antifa, and Stop Cop City activists plan to protest at the first presidential debate between Biden and Trump in Atlanta, Georgia. Flyers promoting the event read, quote, "Two heads, same beast. Converge in Atlanta to end the U.S. war machine." And in one other current event, the Muslim Community Patrol and Services, the MCPS, over in New York City, has increased its patrols according to social media reports. The nonprofit organization deploys vehicles resembling NYPD police cars and claims to protect local communities while acting as a liaison between the police and the community. Moving into infrastructure, preparedness, and major crime, near Raleigh, North Carolina, a Duke Energy electrical transformer was struck by gunfire, causing an oil leak and igniting a fire that led to a power outage. The power outage only lasted about 2 hours, but the FBI is assisting in the investigation, which is being referred to as an attack. Let's look quickly at the terrorism and major crime brief. In Queens, New York, a traffic stop resulted in the arrest of a 27-year-old male who was found with a cache of weapons, including a 9mm handgun, loaded magazines, body armor, axes, knives, and more, which you'll see on mainstream media focusing on the weapons like it's some massive cache. However, he did have an MTA vest, the Mass Transit Authority, as well as NYPD apparel and a body armor with a patch of NYPD on it. He expressed extremist views online and faces multiple legal weapons charges. His social media pages linked him to jihadist flags and New York City mosques. So we'll continue to monitor the briefing and see if they post anything more on this. And continuing into national security, on June 14th, the U.S. House passed a measure in the NDAA, this is the National Defense Authorization Act, to automatically register males aged 18 to 26 for the Selective Service system, the draft. It's also going to include women now, according to the NDAA document. So for the first time, we're looking at women being required to register for the Selective Service, while men will be automatically registered. So both of these are brand new. The NDAA authorizes over $800 billion in military spending and aims to ensure fair and equitable future military drafts. The Senate is unlikely to pass the NDAA in its current form, as it provides a 4.5% to 19.5% pay raise for military service members, decreases funding for abortion, transgender services, and diversity efforts. So just to recap, men will be automatically registered for the draft, and women, for the first time, will be required to register. And finally, let's end with a cybersecurity summary. Ascension St. Vincent's Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama, suffered a ransomware attack that disabled computer systems and impacted patient care. Several Visual Studio Code extensions, this is Microsoft's Visual Studio, with millions of installs were found to contain malicious code, leading to their removal and advisories issued for developers. Black Basta ransomware gang has been linked to exploiting Windows zero-day vulnerabilities to gain initial access to victim systems. Ukrainian authorities arrested individuals linked to the Conti and Lockbit ransomware gang. Google issued a warning about an actively exploited zero-day vulnerability in Pixel smartphones firmware. And Chinese hackers breached over 20,000 FortiGate devices worldwide, exploiting vulnerabilities to the FortiOS software. And once again, that's it for this summary of recent developments. Remember that these briefings are delivered in real time to Grayman Briefing subscribers, sent via the Telegram and Signal apps, as well as a weekly email. Due to time constraints and the risk of censorship, we can't cover it all here. But thanks for listening. Please feel free to comment and leave any questions regarding these developments. Remain aware, be vigilant, and stay safe.
Get unredacted, real-time briefings sent via email and through the Telegram and Signal apps by joining the Grayman Briefing.